So we've looked at how we can save a file that's been uploaded, but what if we want to just create a file? Maybe a simple text file or a CSV file, XML, something like that. How do we go about doing that? Well, in PHP, it's fairly simple. We can use file, put contents, and then we actually submit the name of the file that we want. So we'd say, okay, let's say test.txt, then the actual information we want to submit to it that we want to be saved inside the file. So basically the contents. And then there's some optional flags that we can use. We'll leave those for now and just look at seeing this created. So if I save that, I come over here and run it, you won't see an output, but you'll see that we created a test.txt, and if we open it, our contents were just like we wanted to. So now we've got that file, and one of the flags that we can use is file append. So now if I ran this again, still no output, but when we open up our test.txt, you'll see it just is going to string it onto the end of that file. And that can come in fairly useful. Another thing that you can do is lock X. And that's going to say, if you have a really busy server that's dedicated towards maybe writing files or something, and you don't want any conflicts, you can say, while I'm writing this, especially if you got a really large amount to write, lock the file so that no one else can come in there and start saving to it as well. So that prevents some conflicts. Most of the time it's not absolutely necessary to do that unless you just have a massive amount to write to it. Okay, so we've done that. Now what if we want to retrieve the contents of that file so that we can, test forward, or we can output it to the screen or something like that? And that's going to be as simple as saying file get contents. And the only argument that's required here is the name of the file. So in this case we say text.txt, and then if we echo file out, let's come back here, and it's going to output that directly to the screen. And of course, if we didn't want to echo it, or we wanted to try something else, we could have worked with that as well, but that's a very simple example. Now another thing that comes in very handy in PHP and is used everywhere is using includes. So we can say, okay, we've got this file, but I want to actually use some code from a previous file, say our index.php that's got our form on it, and I want to reuse that and actually run that code on this page. And I could do that as simple as saying include index.php. And that's not including the contents, that's actually saying let's run that, the code that's in that PHP file, let's run that in linear with the code that we currently have in this file. So we might say echo success. Let's put some before it as well. So now if we go back and run this, I'm going to say beginning, then it's going to execute the form that's in here, and we're going to see success at the bottom. So this is a way of breaking our scripts up into manageable amounts that can all be used as one giant script, but we can still break it down and be able to keep track of things and keep them organized as we need to. So this is very, very important to be able to understand that. It's one of the basic building blocks of just about anything you're going to use in PHP. Another useful thing that we can do is use a glob method or a function. And that what glob does is it pulls all of the names of files that we want from a folder or something like that. And it's basically a global lookup. And so we could say it's going to return an array. So let's say print r glob. And then we come in and say what we want it to print out. So in this case, we might say images, or let's just do our current folder and return anything that has PHP in it. So this is a wildcard, so it's saying match anything there, and we'll say any file that ends with .php. We'll print that out. So let's go ahead and put our pre-tags in here so the output looks a little bit nicer. And let's go back and look at our page. So now we see it's actually looking in our existing folder, the same folder that we're executing in, and it's going to print those out as array items. Now if I wanted to look in the images folder, I could do that, and it's going to bring back anything that's in that image folder, which in this case is just a one file. And so we can look just about anywhere we want to on the server using glob and then work through it. Since it's an array, we could also use for each, and we could just use that as the array. So I could say for each glob as file. Echo file, and let's put a line break in between them. So now we can control formatting. Whoop, and I've got a typo somewhere. Okay, so now I've got a little bit nicer output there. If I was to say images, wildcard, you'll notice it's giving me the full file name here. And for some cases, I might want to say all I really want is the file name itself, not the full file path. And we can do that by using the base name function, also a built-in. And if we do that, it's automatically going to return just the file name itself without the file path in it. And if you know what kind of file it's going to be, you can remove the file ending by specifying that as well. And so basically that's just going to remove that whenever it finds it at the end of the string. So that gives us some options for manipulating files and file names and using them in our scripts.